Welcome back, and this time we're taking a look at some extended arrays, some new arrays added on to our code. If you're recalling from the first video, we had the original functionality of showing a list of movies, letting the user choose one of the movies, and then we would share some details about that movie. This is, of course, still building on parallel arrays, so we had two arrays that were being used in the first video, and they were purposely designed to work in parallel by using one common index number. So now we are moving on to adding some new functionality. So we're including more arrays. You can see the list down below. We're also adding more details. So the arrays that we're including now tell things about ratings, including the developers and IMDb. And we're also allowing, for the first time, the user to add a movie. So this will then add new things into our array. So just for a recap, let's show the original functionality of the program. So we can see a list of movies. I might choose Kingsman, and then I see a rating. And in the new version of the code, when I run that, I get here's the current movie list. And if I choose the exact same movie, number 1 Kingsman, I now get some additional details. So it tells me the year it was released, as well as some reasons why to see it, and the rating I gave it, as well as what IMDb scored it as. One additional new feature you'll notice is option number 7. So once it's showed the user the existing movies, it also allows the user to add a new movie. Now, just so you know, this isn't writing out to any files or anything, it's just a one-time run, but for functionality purposes, we're allowing the person to to add on some new movies. Okay, so let's take a look at how this looks as far as our conceptual setup. So previously we only had 2 arrays that were really being used, and now, as you can see, in addition to the ratings, we're offering reasons, an IMDb rating, and the year it was released. So really all this means is all of the details are still working in parallel. If I've got an array movie at 0, then all of these arrays at 0 should correspond to this movie title over here. Okay, so that's kind of the conceptual setup, and sometimes it's nice just to organize all your details and then bring them into the code. So let's take a look at how the code actually makes this. Whereas we were only really using 2 arrays previously, we now have the movies array, the my ratings array, the reasons array, the IMDb ratings array, and the release date, which is really just corresponding to the year. So notice that 2 of the arrays are strings, so their data is still enclosed in quotation marks, the movies and the reasons, and the other 3 arrays are numeric values, so their data is not shown inside quotations, it's just numbers, so no quotes for those guys. Alright, so let's take a look now at some of the new code that was added in. So there's a brand new function called add movies. It's currently collapsed, so that we won't see all the details in it just yet. And we've changed select movie to add some new things. Down in the main section of the code, that's the initial pop-up we saw that said here's the current movie list, and then it calls select movie right afterwards. So let's take a look at what select movie looks like now and how it's changed. So we still notice that we have our for loop here. We still are building the display one item at a time. We're getting input from the person when we display the prompt with the entire list, which is built up in toDisplay. But now, the new code that we've added is allowing us to check to see if they've entered in a valid choice for the movies. So, as a little bit of an exercise, think about which movie would have to be greater than or equal to 0, and at the same time less than movie's length. So this is considered a successful choice from the list. and then it will display some details. Otherwise, if it's the value of which movie is the same as movie's length, that means that we've really chosen past the very end of our index numbers, because we started at 0. If there were 6 movies, the last movie would be index number 5. So if they've chosen 6, that's our prompt to say, hey, we'd like to add on a movie. All right, so that's what's going on there. And then this is just a little error trapping to say if it isn't one of those two situations, either a valid number or the number right past to indicate they want to add a movie, we'll let the person know that that was not in the range and give them a nice little exit message. All right, so that's what's going on with that one. So now let's take a look at this new one called add movies. So if you notice, because we're now going to be needing some additional information, we're going to give the user some prompts. And in good old JavaScript, the prompt pops up a box and allows the user to type in some things. So we have several prompts, and really these all correspond to the details that we are already collecting in our arrays. So we're going to ask the person for a new movie, a new reason to see the movie, what they know about the IMDb rating, what their rating would be, and when it was released, which year. Okay. So once we have this information, we really should do some data validation. So I leave that as an exercise, but just kind of as important. Remember, we don't want to assume that our data is okay, because if we add something, it could potentially break our code if we haven't checked it. So, but once all the details have been gathered from above, from the prompts, then what we're going to do is we're going to push them onto the arrays that they already correspond with. So for instance, if they add a new movie, we'll add it to the movies array, and this is a really handy command. Push simply adds on to the very end of the array that already exists. So pretty easily, once we have the information from the user, we can add all these things on to the existing arrays. And then notice the very last thing that we do is we call select movie again, which nicely displays the current list with their movie added. All right, that kind of wraps it up. So hope you enjoyed and hope you got some new insights into using parallel arrays and even adding things to arrays.